So we also seek to equip our coaches across the nation. How do you see excellence portrayed in the equipping of our coaches?
It's interesting. A lot of people start clubs and they've got no previous debate experience. They've got no previous speech experience. They just know what they want for their children and they feel inadequate. But really, uh, they've got a lifetime of experience. They've lived through events that their children haven't. They they have gained understanding by maybe having been fired from a couple of jobs or maybe having been on the fringes of a riot or whatever. And they can take all this and they can bring it to the table so that when their children discuss stuff, they can say, had you considered this? Had you thought this doesn't ring true? And by doing this kind of thing, the children begin to sharpen themselves. A lot of the training that the children actually get comes in the fire of competition at a tournament. But all the prep stuff that has to be done is done by these parents who have this life experience. I'll throw out an anecdote here. My daughter, my youngest daughter, my second youngest daughter, I have 7 children, and they're all Stoa graduates, except for the last one. She hasn't quite graduated yet. But my second from the last took me to a movie called Bridge of Spies. And I'm kind of old, so I lived through everything in the Bridge of Spies. I remember it as a young adult. And as the movie's going on, I say, I remember that. Oh, this when this happened, I was here. And finally my daughter said, Dad, will you please be quiet? And it hit me that one of the things that our children don't have is they don't have the knowledge that comes from having lived through something. So people who are particularly aged like me have lived through the Cuban Missile Crisis. They've lived through Vietnam. They've lived through the right now with the all the talk about Black Lives Matter. They've lived through the racial things of the '60s, the integration. They saw the dogs being set on marchers in Alabama back in the early '60s. So they have an understanding of these things that maybe escapes the current news feed, escapes the textbooks, or so on. They can bring that to the table and enrich their children's understanding, and they in turn can bring that to a tournament in the form of a speech or in the form of a debate and do better. And as they say, iron sharpens iron. So when other children that they're debating also do the same kind of thing, it makes them think, just as they make the other side of the table think. And as a consequence of that, they all become more proficient in their understanding and their search for truth, which is what we're after, the search for truth. So parents have an essential role in that by bringing some of the basics to the table to feed to their children. And when it comes to equipping coaches, I think that's really the most important thing. Very few of us are going to have gone through high school or college debate or